and welcome. Today I'm having a conversation with a very dear friend of mine, Kira Sutherland, who is a wonderful medical health astrologer. Kira, welcome.
Thank you, Kelly. Very excited to see you.
I know, I'm always excited to see you too. I always like to think, when did we meet when I'm having a conversation with someone? And I really had to go back into the bowels of my memory to find out when we met, because we've known each other for more than 20 years.
Yep, absolutely.
And I remember taking a class with you in medical astrology at an aged care college in Sydney. Yeah. I might have been 20 or 21 years of age, and I was just enamored with the energy and the enthusiasm, but also the wisdom and the depth of your knowledge. So it's so great to be able to share this today. Yeah, you've inspired me for a really long time, so I'm glad that we, I don't know, I just love our little
that's divine. I remember you. I remember that class. I remember the shape of the room and where you were sitting, and I remember not to discourage anybody else that was in that class, but I remember there was like 20 of you.
Yeah.
I just teach medical. So you were all studying astrology with the teacher that I studied with.
Yeah.
And I remember you sitting there and just like your brain working. Oh, so that would mean the progressions and the transit and blah, 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 and the calculation that was going on. I was like, oh my goodness, you were on fire. You were on fire as a newbie astrologer. Yeah. No, but you could just see where you were going to go with it.
Thank you. That's Absolutely. So kind. It's, astrology has been a great love for both of us for such a long time, because your background is in kind of like the real world, naturopathy and health science, sports science.
Yes. So I now refer to my two worlds as I don't like the term woo-woo, which everyone's using now. I'm out with woo-woo. So I am a scientist. I'm a naturopath. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a science undergrad, postgrad degree, sports nutritionist. And then I have my medical astrology side. And I think my naturopathy straddles that, but I now call it, I have my science side and my sacred side.
Oh, I love that. So yes, the science and the sacred.
Sacred. That's my new thing this year. I created that in January.
Oh, that is beautiful. And that is so appropriate because you have got advanced university degrees, like a master's or something higher than a master's. I never know exactly.
No, I'm on I've grad dip and partway through my master's by research.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. And then your naturopathy training in addition. And in some ways, we're going to balance the science and sacred today, because you're going to share some information about your work with the moon cycle, with the lunar cycle, and how that links to health and also a little bit of weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of, and that came about actually through lectures I was giving in my science side. And then all these theories started coming out about cycles, because I was lecturing on sports nutrition, but how it relates to females and the female reproductive cycle, or the female, your menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
And it's probably the first time anyone said menstrual on your
That's fine. Menstrual. Women bleed.
That's right. So I was lecturing on that and lecturing on the cycles, because there's all this new research coming out about the first half of your cycle being low hormone, the second half being high hormone, and how we have different strengths and weaknesses during the cycle. And I was lecturing on that, and then teaching people how to use their cycle. And then people were like, well, what if you don't have a cycle? What should I do? And whether they're on the pill, or they've lost their cycle, or they're menopausal or postmenopausal, or
we have a variety of reasons, right, where you might not have a cycle.
Yeah. And so I was thinking about that, and there's all this research coming out on human bodies around how cyclical we are with everything. We have our circadian rhythm for we have circadian rhythm for sleep, but it turns out every organ of the body has its own circadian rhythm. So your digestive system has its own rhythm. Your microbiome, which is the big thing, your intestinal bacteria has its own system, your own, circadian rhythm, your liver, everything. And, if you go back in Chinese medicine, they often kind of looked at that, but it's a bit different, but they're still similar. And I was like, so it was all these things kind of colliding into each other, that then when people are saying, well, what if I don't have a cycle? How do I use this information you've taught me? And it's like, well, a woman's body is naturally cyclical anyway, right? We most of us have a cycle between, 26 and 32 days or thereabouts. And so it's the idea that we're on that rhythm, whereas men have a 24-hour cycle with their testosterone. They're more a solar
like
energy.
That's the day cycle, isn't it? Yeah,
the day
solar
cycle.
yang cycle.
Oh, maybe there's another chapter in my book on that. I haven't thought about that. But yeah, men and testosterone has a 24-hour rhythm. And I was like, well, cycles. There happens to be a very large thing in the sky. Now, these are non-astrologers I was lecturing to, but like there's a large object in the sky that's on a 28, 29 day cycle.
Yeah.
And so I was starting to suggest that as a cycle, because as long as you give your body a rhythm, it will fall into place, right? We know a lot about
the body likes rhythms.
The body loves cycles. It's like we know we're our healthiest if we actually wake and go to bed at the same time every day.
The consistency is really key, isn't it, for our little bodies?
And eating at the same time every day. It's very sixth house, repetition, rhythm, ritual, routine. That actually is a way to keep the sixth house healthy, is by following routines, right? It all links back.
Yes.
Yeah?
I love this. And so just a quick interception, Kira, because I'm not sure everybody is very well versed in the fact that we have a health or a medical application of astrology. And what you're referencing is that there are parts of the birth chart, and we're going to talk a lot about the moon today, that really describe your physical self, what kind of daily routines, what kind of food, sleep, all of that, exercise. So, and that's what you do when you work with clients, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I look at all the planets, obviously, and I look at the biggies, the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, but we look at everything. And we also look at very specific houses, because medical astrology is very focused on certain houses representing certain things to do with our health. Like the first house is about our physical body, and it's our adrenals. So it's kind of our stress response. And we get thrown into our first house when we're stressed, because it's like our body wants to go into battle and, meet the world.
Yeah.
Whereas the sixth house is the house, traditionally, it's the house of illness or disease, but it's actually also the house of health. So it's where we have to put in the, sixth house in regular astrology it's the house of hard work and like laboring away.
The boring, necessary stuff of everyday life.
And what is health? Health is the boring, necessary stuff of life, right?
Yes.
So the sixth house is so perfect for also where we can fine tune or support our health. It's not just our disease.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love this. And so, and also what prompted our conversation today is that you wrote a beautiful article for the Wellbeing Astrology magazine 2020 on this moon work. And I know you've been building on that work and you'd already been researching it. So you're actually going to take this into a book, I think.
Yes. So I'm kind of I probably should only say a third of the way through the book, but writing a book. I really want to get some, I've been doing medical astrology for 25 years. I have a million lectures, and it's time to get pen to paper or fingers to keys. And, but the moon's coming first, because I think this is like amazingly useful information. So it's about, and it can also be applied for men. It's not just women and their cycles, but I do go into that, but it's all about cyclical nature of using the moon for a lot of different things in health. And look, in traditional, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but so I was talking about using the visible moon for women in their cycles, but then I got really excited, but I was talking to a bunch of scientists, so I had to kind of stop. And I started thinking about and this is what the well-being article was on, your lunar phase return.
Beautiful.
So your, do you want me to explain, or you want to explain?
You do it. Yeah. What a lunar phase return is.
So when we're looking in astrology, we always look at what the angle between the sun and the moon was the day you were born. So you can look that up on a lot of programs. You can see, I was a new moon baby. I was a full moon baby. I'm a 3/4 moon. And so every month, when the moon comes back to the same shape, as the day you were born. So it doesn't actually have to be in the same sign. It's about the same shape.
The phase, the angle. Yeah.
The phase, yeah. You can fill in because you might be better at that than me. That is referred to as your lunar phase return. And that's like a little, I see it as a little reset button, right? It's meant to be this, there's some great books written on it. I know you're writing on it a bit at the moment, Kelly. It's this reset button where you come back and you start the cycle again of every month. And if you think back, it's an ancient cycle that goes back to the day you were born.
Yeah.
Every month. And I love that. And I was like, well, why couldn't we, both men and women, use our lunar phase return as the start of our cycle? Because that's a reset button to the day you were born. So you would count the lunar phase return as your new moon.
Beautiful.
So instead of following the moon in the sky, you're actually following your own moon. So, the phase return is the new moon, and halfway through the cycle would be considered your full moon.
Yeah.
And so I've been playing around with that with health clients and instigating health treatments, because if you jump back to menstrual cycles, the first half of a female cycle, from the day they first start bleeding until they ovulate, the first half of that cycle it's called the follicular phase, but it's a low hormone phase. And it's when we're really strong, we have a lot of stamina. Our body copes our body copes with burning carbohydrates faster or better. We feel good. We exercise and we're like, yeah, I feel great. And it's this, we know in astrology, new moon to full moon is the productive phase of the moon, right?
Yes.
That's where we initiate things,
yes.
we get them going.
The waxing growth part of the moon.
Yeah. So in our cycles, that also is growth. We know by research, we can actually lay down more muscle from exercise in the first half of the cycle than the second.
Wow.
Right? There's all this science on it. Whereas you get to the second half of the cycle, which is called your luteal. So full moon.
Take me back to year 10 health science at school.
I know. There's a reason for it.
I love it.
That high hormone, we don't recover as well. We don't feel as out there and as social. We don't, all the things that you would write on with the decreasing moon, but we don't recover as well from exercise. We're moodier, we're hungrier because our temperature's up. We crave salt and sugar and chocolate, and we want to just lay under the covers and do nothing because it's this retreat phase. And we also don't, like in exercise, we don't create as much muscle in that phase. And so I was thinking about those, because in traditional astrology, if you want to lose weight, you do it from the full moon as it decreases, right? Because the moon is shedding. So it's the idea of shedding weight.
The shedding. Yeah.
Right. And I've played with that with clients without much luck. Success. We'll say success. It's not luck. Whereas if you look at the science of the hormones with women, you'd actually be better off doing weight loss in the first half of the cycle when we're more badass and we have better willpower and we have more strength and we don't crave as much food.
That's so interesting.
And so I've been playing, and there's also research, I'm talking all this research, about cyclical dieting, where you actually are better off dieting 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Which completely correlates with the lunar cycle.
I know, it all overlaps. So I've taken these 5 different things, some science, some sacred, and overlap them. And so I now am working with clients in weight loss, where we're using, if they have a menstrual cycle, we absolutely have to use that, because
that's the first place to start if you do have a cycle.
Yeah, that's your hormone superpowers. So I do weight loss kind of starting day 2 or day 3 of a period for 12 to 14 days. And then you relax it a bit. But if you don't have that cycle, I've been playing with the lunar cycle. And so you start the weight loss at your lunar phase return.
Yep.
For 2 weeks.
This is so interesting.
I've had incredible results. just with the ease of being able to stick to eating programs, and then you get your 2 weeks to release a bit. And it's not like you eat for crazy.
You don't go nuts, but you don't have to be as strict.
It's amazing how easy it is, because so many people, I'm 51, and a lot of people I know are starting to not have cycles. And when women stop having cycles, they often also gain a lot of weight. So one of the big areas I work in is, women between 50 and 80 who have their menopausal weight gain, and they don't have a cycle. And so you have this. So if people are open to astrology, I jump them straight. No cycle, I'll jump straight to the lunar phase.
It's fantastic.
Rather than the moon.
Yeah. So you're looking for people who are sort of menopausal or not having a cycle for other reasons. You take the lunar phase at birth, and then when that happens, in July or August, that's the start of the 2-week kind of weight loss focus, the badass period.
That's your badass 2 weeks, I've decided. Yeah.
I love it. So this is going to be the new research, the badass half of the phase, and then the more resting, relaxed half of the phase.
Yes.
I love it.
That's your princess phase. Where you just want to lay in bed and have chocolate.
And have the chocolate.
It doesn't leave men out, right? Men have, because you guys don't have your menstrual cycle. You have your testosterone cycle. But men can use the lunar phase, because they have lunar phases.
Of course.
For health and health changes, and then relaxing a bit. So it's a whole way of using the moon's cycles to really work on your health and your habits. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, because it's basically inspired by the first 2 weeks, the first half of the moon's phase, which is the waxing, growing, which you're saying research is kind of showing that we do have this period, this cycle, I should use that word, where we're stronger and we can handle carbohydrates better, and our body lays down muscle better from exercise. So our bodies are just kind of like better performing and more efficient in that 2-week period. And then if you try and push at that level through the whole 4 weeks, you're almost shooting yourself in the foot, because you just won't get the same results in the second 2 weeks, which is the waning and the decline part of the moon cycle.
The waning phase, or in a reproductive cycle, it's called the luteal phase.
The luteal.
They're alphabetical. I could never remember these. Follicular is first.
Right. And then luteal. Yeah.
Took me years to remember that.
I love it. So if you do have a cycle, your follicular phase is like the waxing part of the moon, the 2 weeks of growth. And then your luteal phase is your waning, decline, kind of shedding.
Yeah. And it's shedding, and I'm not saying people can't lose weight in that second half, but for women in the second half of the phase, your progesterone is really high. Progesterone makes you hotter. Yeah. It makes you burn more calories per day, but it makes you hold more fluid. It makes you crave salt. It makes you crave sugar. You don't feel as strong, and you don't feel like working out hard. And so it is more of a resting phase than that first half. And just to clarify, the first day of a cycle is the first day of a full bleed.
Right.
Because some people think the first day of a cycle is the day you stop bleeding. That's not correct.
Right. Okay. So we want to clarify the day you start your bleed, the first full day. So, and to be really specific, maybe your bleed starts in the afternoon, but you would mean the next day, which is the full day kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it starts after lunch, but it's still quite full on, I would probably count that as day one.
Yeah.
It's not, But if it starts in the evening, that's
definitely not day one. Okay. And basically, the point you're trying to make there is that the day your cycle starts is the day you start bleeding, not the end of the bleed.
Yeah. Because a lot of people get that wrong. And sometimes in literature, and it's not wrong, but I've seen other people write on the moon and they're like, oh, the dark of the balsamic moon is the bleed. But
no.
If you're actually using lunar phase overlapped, I don't know if science is going to go with on a lunar phase.
Well, no, but the science, because the hormones reset as soon as you start bleeding. So even though you're bleeding for a period of time, your hormones have rebalanced. Your progesterone level has now dropped down. That's what, starts your bleed. Yeah. And so from that internal level, I guess, hormones maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the moon's still very dark at the new moon.
Of course.
You still have days of dark up to the crescent. So that's, up to the crescent is about that's the bleed.
The length of your bleed. Yeah, it's certainly the most intense part of anyone's bleed, that kind of 2 to 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on.
Fantastic. And so you're getting some great results with clients, whether they have a cycle, and then if not, you can use their lunar phase to create this cycle. Yeah. And the results you're getting are around weight loss or just general health?
Just both. General health, just starting new habits. I think it's you're much better off starting those new habits at the beginning of the cycle because you have that strength and that willpower, and you don't have high progesterone wobbling your emotions. That's what makes us emotional. So, and weight loss, but especially, weight loss or stricter diets, because, sometimes if you think back in your life, because most people have tried to lose weight at some point in their life, and sometimes you go to do a new diet and you literally get halfway through it and then you're like, nah, this isn't happening. And you're like, I'll have to start next Monday, or I'll do, and it's funny because everyone always wants to start stuff on a Monday, which is the moon day.
Yes.
Which is, as much as we're talking about the moon, I'm not sure the Monday is always the best place to start stuff. Maybe Saturday.
Yeah.
With that form of Saturn coming in. But isn't it funny? Everyone starts their regimes on a Monday.
Well, it is. And what I'm realizing too is that for people like you and I, it's second nature to think that if you're going to start something new to do with your body, time it to your cycle if you're a woman who has a cycle. But for many people, they wouldn't even think about the cycle playing a role in that. They just think a random arbitrary Monday. But maybe it's Monday, just after you've ovulated or something, and you just got to smash the potato chips or the chocolate ice cream rather than, So even the idea of syncing these things to your internal cycle rather than just using external dates.
I love it. Yeah. It's so fun. I love realizing when it's my lunar phase return. And, with most programs, if you have a computer program, you can print them out. And so you have, the monthly day and time of what's happening. And it's so easy. And there's a lot to do with fertility and lunar phase, but I'm actually not going to write on that in this, I don't think.
In this book. Yeah.
That's another thing.
It's a whole other area of specialization, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But I've seen really people who can't normally stick to diets or regimes, or I sometimes do quite full on juice cleanses or fasts with people, not water fasting, but fasts. And those can be really hard to start. And you start it at that day 2, if they've had their period or in the lunar phase. And they're like, or someone doing, super strict detox diet for 2 weeks. And they're like, that was the easiest detox diet I've ever done in my life, ever.
Wow.
And then you try to start it when it's not. And they're like, no, I can't 2 days in. And I'm
back on the chocolate. That's fascinating, Kira. So this is stuff that you're writing on. There is an article in Wellbeing 2020, which the digital edition is still available if people want to grab more. But tell us where people can find you. Your website is...
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
My website is astrologyofhealth.com.
Health.com. Yeah.
If you Google Kira Sutherland, you can find it. But I have 2 websites. I have a more sports website, which is just the kirasutherland.com.au.
Yeah.
But the astrology is astrologyofhealth.com. It's just .com.
Yeah.
But and on social media, I'm both Facebook and Instagram. I'm Astrology of Health.
Excellent.
I am on Twitter, but that says Kira_Sutherland. But I don't all have chats with astrologers, but Twitter is very sciencey. And,
for you.
And so I don't do astrology posts on Twitter. I keep it to Insta and
Facebook. I love it.
We have too many things to post.
There's so many things, isn't there? And you also have a really beautiful newsletter that has some wonderful tips. I don't know if that's your Astrology of Health newsletter or your...
That's my Uber Health is which is my Kira, and that'll be coming out in the next day or 2.
Yeah.
But I do astrology newsletters about usually on the solstices and the equinoxes, so I better get myself together.
Excellent. Yes, you've got a couple of weeks to get ready.
Yeah.
This is so great, Kira. Thank you so much. And you do see clients, so people can contact you for a session. You work with people all around the world, right? You're all set up for online.
Yeah.
And I can certainly, sorry.
I did Mexico and the USA today by consults. I love where they go. And I do have a lot of online courses. You can see them on my website, or you can see them. They're offered both. If you click on my website, it'll just take you to Astrology University. So if you're an Astrology University person, you'll see I have a whole medical astrology program, and then just a bunch of one-off lectures.
Webinars and talks. So if they're on the Astrology University website, they could just search by your name there and find your courses, which is excellent.
They are on my website as well.
Cool. And I'll put a link to your website below. So if people are watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, you'll be able to find Kira through there. Yeah. Kira, thank you so much for sharing your sacred science intersection today. That was beautiful. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Oh, always awesome, Kelly. Thank you.
Thanks.